I like to invite one of my colleague, Bhageshi, to take this presentation ahead with the clustering as a topic.
Good evening, everyone. So today's topic is introduction to clustering. So we'll be learning what is clustering, various types of clustering, and one of the algorithm in clustering, that is K-means, and a business problem which can be solved using clustering. So what is basically clustering? It is a descriptive analytic technique which groups object which has so that each object in a cluster is similar to the other object in the cluster, and it is different from other clusters. So like if you see here, it is unclustered data. When after applying cluster analysis, you get three clusters of different colors. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear.
Okay. So this is the original unclustered data. By doing cluster analysis, what we are doing is we are creating three clusters over here. So here the cluster in green, all the clusters, all the data objects which are in green cluster are similar to each other, but they are different to the objects in the blue color cluster. So this is basically the how cluster are made. So the approach used in cluster analysis is classification of data. So what basically is done, that this classification is done by grouping natural grouping of data which is there in the data set, which shows the natural behavior in the data set. Based on that, the grouping is done. So where we need cluster analysis. So cluster analysis is mainly need when we need to we need segmentation, or we need data simplification where we have large number of data sets. So if we have to reduce it into smaller data sets to perform analysis, so we can use cluster analysis where we can group data sets which are having similar behavior. Then even in relationship identification, cluster analysis is used. For example, if we have a stock market data, so if we can group a data where particular stock are showing similar fluctuations. So cluster analysis is used in that. So here is one example which we can discuss is market research. So cluster analysis is very much used in market research data. So data appears in rows and columns. So rows can be clustered according to columns and vice versa. For example, we can cluster technique can be used to identify demographics or physiographics. So demographic like male, female. Depending on that, we can characteristics of consumers with similar purchasing history, or to isolate difference between group of products. So market researchers can then study the individual cluster of consumers or product in more detail in order to maximize result or from future marketing strategies. So the different types of clusters are, there are two major types, that is hierarchy and partitional. So in hierarchical, each types have their own methods how the clustering is done. In hierarchy, the method we uses algorithm and other is decisive. In partitional, these are the methods, that is error minimization, graph theoretic, density based and model based. So, and each method has an algorithm applied to it. So, for algometric, there is bottom up and top down. For decisive, we have K-means. And similarly, the respective are used for the above methods mentioned. So here we will discuss K-means clustering. So K-means it uses the partitional clustering approach. So what it basically does, it divides the data set into number of clusters specified. So what we first do is first we have to assume the clusters in which we have to make. So basically here it is more of a trial and error, like how many clusters we need to do. Alternative also, there is one test performed where we can know key for a particular data set how many number of clusters will be appropriate. So that package and that test we can perform in the analytical tool whichever we will be using. So here let's assume that our cluster, that is K, number of cluster is 3. We choose the centroid randomly, that is it is done in the algorithm itself in the analytical tool. So once we get the centroid, we have the next thing what we do is calculate all the distance of the data points from that particular centroid. So, and we assign a particular data point to that particular centroid which is closest. So, if for example, this particular data set is close to red, so that data point will be associated with red color. So, similarly, the clusters are made. The same thing is repeated unless and until all the data points are associated with particular clusters. And then finally we have the clusters. So here is one of the business problem where stating we have to segment the people who needs improvement from their dedication and performance perspective. So we have, this is a business problem. So we have the scatter plot made in our analytical tool which we will be using. So from this particular graph, we are having average monthly hours over on x-axis. On y-axis, we have last evaluation done on that particular employee, for that particular employee. So what are the observation is, people putting high efforts are getting better evaluation. So that is this set of people are getting high evaluation since they are putting more hours into the more efforts. So people in the bottom left section are typically not performant and low on dedication. So what exactly, so we identify from this particular scatter plot that this is the problem area. These are the kind of people who are putting less efforts, less time in the company. So their evaluation is less. So uh, what actions can we do on them so that they come in this section of the graph. So one is plan soft skill or technical program. Second is segregate the people who needs to be replaced, initiate recruit. I request all of you to please mute their mic. So the actions that can be taken for this particular section of people can be change the assignment that suits their area of interest, or we can plan various programs which can enhance their skill, or if there is no other option then we can uh, see that if we need a recruitment plan for this particular set of people. So this is basically an HR analytics example of business problem. So this is one of the problem which we are showcasing in this our webinar. There are other various business problems and various other problem statement which will be shown in the lectures when in our courses which will be taken up. and we will show how this scatter plot comes up. Again, we can, other than this scatter plot, how we can drill down into this particular set of people and actually find out which department is not working good, or which particular set of people from which department, or is there a salary issue, or what is there. That can be even drilled down using the analytical tool. So all that will be taking up in our courses. So this is the use of cluster analysis, how we can do in HR analytics. So I